So we have a very interesting research that started some years ago, pre-pandemic, when we were reached by a reporter from Elle magazine. And at that time, they were studying about how sustainable are rental models. As probably everybody has heard, there are these new rental services in clothing that are opposing in a way to the fast fashion business model, trying to find ways in which people can make a better use of the clothes so that do not end up just in the closet, but actually can be used multiple times even by different people, so that you can really offset what's already the emissions associated with the production of these clothes. But one of the things that that reporter asked was related to what is the logistics piece and how that contributes or not to this sustainability of those rental models. And we actually got inspired by that article. We started a research project that we worked also with Monterrey Tech in Mexico, and the idea was to study different cities within the US to capture what is the first consumer behavior in terms of clothes, and also understanding more how different models that are very common, like for instance monthly subscription, meaning certain consumers pay a regular fee and they receive monthly different clothes that you use overall, for the month, and others that are based more in peer-to-peer, meaning you have platforms that connect consumers, one that has actually clothes and the other that wants to rent, and then how this works again. So what we did is to build a huge supply chain mapping of the general models to understand where they are extracted, what are the common materials, what are different clothes that are used, because it's not the same to use like regular clothes that you have, or shirts, or use suddenly a dress for prom. So those things have different behavior in terms of use, at the same time also in terms of materials. And what we did is to compare for specific garments what will be the carbon emissions associated for each model, because by considering rental services, it turns out that the increase in this logistics piece is very big, or could be very big. Meaning you have to, for instance, if you deliver the clothes, you need to go and pick them up, or somebody needs to deliver them. You also need to take dry cleaning, you need to put some packaging as well, you need to take it again, and usually even just in the normal e-commerce, which is also very big in fashion, has also very high returns, 50, 60% depending on the city, country. Now with the rental services, it turns out that this tends to at least be the same or increase in many cases. So having even more movements increases a lot of the transportation activity and therefore the fuel consumption associated with that operation, which in turn also could be in some cases even worse than just buying a new one compared to the Where Once model. So we studied these three different models. We ran more than thousands of different simulations with different behaviors, and we learn interesting things. Among those things, that of course there is no single model that is the best in all the conditions. There are certain items that is just, if you're going to be using them most of the time, like for instance regular t-shirts, underwear, it's way better just to go and buy them. Right? And even if because of the regular use you're going to have per person, it's actually better just to buy a new one if you're going to get rid of the one that you already have. But if you, for instance, are going to use clothes that are more for a wedding, right, or you have a big event, it tends to be better to use the monthly subscription type of model, right? Because in that one, again, it seems that it's much more convenient. It's not going to be used a lot, and therefore, compared to the Where Ones, tends to be much more environmentally friendly. And we also find out that the one that has probably higher potential of savings is the peer-to-peer, because at this stage, the peer-to-peer models are connecting consumers without looking at where they are necessarily located. And the emissions associated with just bring them together tends to be higher in the emissions done by just the passenger movement is way higher than actually just having a fast fashion and going to buy a new garment, among different items. So we built an interesting research with recommendations from both sides. From one side, again, how companies can improve these operations by looking at different material sourcing and other strategies, but at the same time, how to be a green consumer for each of these models. And we believe, again, this has way higher potential of reductions in carbon emissions than just looking at what companies can do. And we believe this is very interesting, and hopefully some of the companies will take our recommendations very seriously.